The opinions expressed in the Brothers-in-Law show are for informational purposes only and are not a substitute for personal professional legal advice.
Thanks for tuning into Brothers-in-Law on Go Country 105. I'm Larry Mandel.
And I'm Rob Mandel.
And we've been trial attorneys here in Los Angeles for over 40 years.
On our show, we will discuss current events, talk about legal issues, and have some very entertaining guests stop by. So stay tuned every week for Brothers-in-Law right here on Go Country 105.
Hey, we're the Brothers-in-Law, and I'm Larry Mandel.
I'm Rob Mandel.
And a big shout out to Debbie the Mortgage Mom.
Hey, Debbie. We're
Rob.
so glad we follow you, yeah.
Hey, so you're going to talk about something right now.
I am? How did you know? Do you have ESP or something?
No, because you talk a lot. But anyway, we're going to talk about our clients and what they have to go through. And
well, you know, what they have to go through is not just the injury, not just the things that they have to deal with in terms of pain and getting back on their feet and making sure they can, you know, hopefully get back to work and all that kind of worry. But they also have to deal with the system, the legal system. And it can be very daunting, and it can be so, it just adds so much more stress to the equation and aggravate the situation that they're going through.
well, it's an adversarial, scenario.
It's an adversarial scenario.
Thank you, Robert.
Yes, indeed. That's what it is. It's an adversarial scenario.
But in that context, though, the other side gets to have their doctor look at our client, and that doctor is not always very objective.
Yeah, they really get to run you through the ringer.
Yeah.
And that process, which they call, quote unquote, an independent medical exam.
Which we don't call that.
Well, it's not independent. It's, like you said, it's an adversarial proceeding, and it's a means, generally speaking, for the other side to try and poke holes in the person's claim, in the extent of their injury or things like that.
So
and
what
really,
happens? Go ahead, Rob.
Well, that was it. You know, I mean, it's a tough situation to be in because, you know, you're hurting, and all of a sudden you're seeing some doctor who is not your friend, who's not there to help you out. He's actually there to hurt you in many ways.
Right.
He or she. And,
So what they do is they make a demand for our client to go see the doctor, and the client has to appear. But what do we do in order to protect our client?
Well, what we do, what we've always done, is send a professional, usually a nurse professional who understands the what's going on medically, but also understands how these physicians can try and bend the truth and do things unfairly. Kind of spin the thing unfairly against the client, and they're there to kind of oversee the situation for us because we're legally entitled to be there. But
Right.
That can make it look a little weird, you know, though the lawyer was there, you know, but also because, you know, we may not understand the subtleties of the medicine or the exam that's going on with the client right then. So the nurse professional is that person.
Yeah, I mean, they could comment at trial, oh, your lawyer was there. But like you said, it's more important that we have somebody there that knows the medicine and can protect our client and prevent the doctor from doing certain tests like that or invasive tests, because that's a no-no.
Right.
All right, so that leads us to our special guest today, Eva Ettedgyi, who is
Eva Ettedgyi.
Ettedgyi, right?
Yeah.
Did I
Right.
pronounce that correctly?
You did.
And Eva is a registered nurse that we've used on many occasions to go and attend these exams, these defense medical exams, as we call them. So welcome, Eva.
Thank you,
Hello,
Larry.
Eva.
Nice to have you here.
Hi, Rob.
Hey, can you give us, Eva, can you give us a little background of what your background in nursing?
Sure. So I've been a nurse now for, looks like 26 years. And I spent the first 18 years working in the hospital setting. I was on an orthopedic floor, so that was very helpful. And I did other types of nursing in the hospital setting. But since 2007, I have been a legal nurse consultant, and the RN who works with the attorneys, the role shifts. When you're a legal nurse consultant, you are now really the educator for the attorneys on different aspects of healthcare or medicine, depending in what capacity you're working with them.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, and so you just kind of did our little segue for us. When you're working with a lawyer and a client, what are you doing, basically?
Well, in this role, in the defense medical exams, or if you want to call them defense physical exams even, the nurse is an observer. She's there to be the eyes and the ears for the attorney. Also, it's a big support to the client who's, what I've found is, their life has been turned upside down with pain, limitations, the crisis of having been injured. And like you said, they have to go to this doctor. He's the doctor from the other side, and that's very daunting for them. So
Right.
First you have this person feeling supported, that there's someone there on behalf of the attorneys, and that someone being an RN who knows what they're looking at in the medical exam.
It's a check and balance, because the doctors, I've seen, if a nurse doesn't go there, in other cases where maybe it was a different law firm and we took over the case or something, the doctor will try to get a history and go into a lot of detail. And the client's already most likely given a deposition and given all the details. So the doctor almost tries to make it like a second deposition. And that is unfair, right?
Right.
And so what do you do in that context?
Well, depending on which law firm I'm working with, usually there's a response to the demand, and that's where those objections or parameters of what can be asked or done are laid out. So my approach, and the nurses who work with me, are really to not be confrontational, but just to be the deliverer of the message. Oh, I'm sorry, doctor.
Right.
His attorneys are not allowing details about the mechanism of injury today. You're going to have to
Right.
refer to the records. That way you don't get someone having a tantrum that you've interrupted their exam, like, oh, I wish I could help you out, but here are the parameters.
Right.
I mean, the client
Because
is really there just to be examined, right?
Correct.
It's not to give a whole history
The
about
whole
it.
reason they're asking those kinds of questions is to try and trip somebody up.
Exactly,
And they're
Rob.
acting as an advocate instead of an objective examiner, and they keep getting hired over and over and over again because they can count on them finding something. There's always something. Oh, he didn't need that test. Oh, he didn't need that procedure.
We're Larry and Rob Mandel, the brothers-in-law, here on Go Country 105. Do you have a legal issue you need help with? We want to hear from you.
Find us on Instagram and send us a message. Then tune in on Saturdays at 8 a.m. right here on Go Country 105. Hey, if you missed any part of this show or you just want to hear it again, go to brothersonlaw.com for all of our previous shows and all things Brothers on Law. Now, Ava, how long have you been doing this?
I've been doing this since 2007,
So 13
good
years.
13 years.
Yeah. And so I take it over that time you've had a chance to kind of get a feel of which doctors are going to be relatively objective and which ones are just hired guns.
Correct.
Yeah.
The frequent flyers.
The frequent flyers.
Are we going to say their names?
No.
No,
kidding.
we're not going to out anybody on our radio show, but we all
it was
know
a
who they
joke.
are, I
Yeah.
think. But so going in, do you have a different approach for the ones that are likely to be spinning things and bending the truth?
Actually, Rob, no. The way I approach and my nurses approach each exam is like this. Any doctor has the opportunity to conduct a sincere inquiry and to do the tests correctly, not light-handedly, not to omit certain tests or certain portions of the body. And we just write down what they're doing in great detail, of course. So,
Right.
for example, if you have someone during the interview that is saying, I've got this severe low back pain and it shoots into my buttocks and back of my leg, and then I've got this numbness on the top of my foot, and when someone points, I'm writing down, either pointing to the left lateral lower leg. And then it comes to the physical exam, and the doctor doesn't do sensation testing on the top of that foot where he was already told there's numbness there. Or the doctor doesn't perform a straight leg raise, which is a way of pulling the nerve root along and provoking those symptoms
Exactly.
of radiculopathy.
So you're there to actually make that observation and record it.
Correct.
And have you ever gone to court and testified as to, the doctor said this? And
I was there, and it didn't happen that way.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Has
have
that
gone
happened?
as a precipient witness a few times to court. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
we've done that.
on the flip side of the equation, I've been doing this 30 years. I think there's maybe 2 or 3 times where I've seen a doctor be extraordinarily objective and just say, sorry guys, sorry State Farm or whatever insurance is on the other side. This is the real deal. And
Doesn't happen that often, though.
no. Usually it's in those settings where it's kind of undeniable, where it's really,
Yeah.
just
There's
so
just
bad.
like a broken arm
Yeah.
or something. What are they
But
gonna
even
say,
then, the bad guys will still find something. Oh well, yeah. I mean, they're really messed up and for life, but they don't need this procedure and that procedure, or they don't need 24-hour care, whatever.
And you've
it's-
attended all different kinds of injury cases, right? From
Correct.
brain injury to orthopedic injuries.
Maxillofacial, neuropsychological, neurology, ophthalmology, neuro-ophthalmology, any kind of exam where plastic surgery, that's another one.
So now you're not an ophthalmologist or a plastic surgeon. So how do you, as a nurse, prepare yourself for those kinds of exams where there's high degree of specialty involved?
You go in, and as much as you can see the results of the testing, you have to be a good scriber, writing it down. There's certain parts of visual acuity tests where you're sitting there and you can see the chart, the Snellen chart and the letters and the numbers, and the person is reciting what they see, and I'm writing it down, and then I'm writing down what is correctly there. And other parts of those exams, like in an ophthalmologist office, they'll have all kinds of high-tech machinery. And the most you could do there when someone's looking into a machine is to notate the type of machine it is and what they're testing, whether it's a visual field test or the doctor's looking at the back of the retina. You can't always get the results on every test.
Yeah.
What's been the most outrageous situation where you've encountered with a doctor not being equitable?
Oh, let me think.
She has to think. There's so many of them.
Yeah. Wow.
I know we're sounding like we're very, being anti-doctor right now, but we're really
We are not.
We love doctors, and we
Well-
respect a lot of these guys and women who are on the other side and trying to do their job. But when you got someone who's going through a lot of pain and suffering and stress, and they got to go through this exam process, and it's not being done fairly and objectively, then it's so frustrating.
We got to protect them.
Exactly.
So did you think of an outrageous situation? All right.
Yeah, I have. So there's a doctor that I've seen do this a couple times. Let's say it's an arm injury. So the person is talking about the symptoms of their arms and the continued pain and problems they have. And when the doctor, this particular doctor, does the exam, he does strength and sensation testing to the lower extremities, but not the upper extremities where the injury is. Then
Yeah.
I've gone in another time and the injury was to the leg, maybe a knee or something, or an ankle. And then he does sensation and strength testing only to the arms and not the legs.
So he's reporting, he or she's
The
fine.
strength is normal.
Right. So very important as part of this discovery process, along with getting my detailed report and audio, is either the attorney comparing that to the defense examiner's report when it becomes available, or even sending it to me so I can do that analysis. Because I also like to put in these reports what I call omissions, the tests that were not done. And I'm not necessarily trying to go toe-to-toe with an orthopedic surgeon and giving an opinion that you should have done the cervical compression test or you should have done this and that. I just like to list those commonly seen tests in an exam so that you can use it as a check form when you're looking at the defense report. And if it says Babinski's, plantar reflex, ankle jerk for clonus, Hoffman sign, all negative, and you look at my list and those were omitted.
They weren't done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like,
They're just ticking the boxes. So that's kind of a check and balance for that.
Have you suffered or been injured by someone else's negligence? When you need a legal team that will stand up for what is right, won't give up the fight and obtain justice, call 818-886-6600. Mandel Trial Lawyers specializes in personal injury cases of all types. Whether it's a car accident, product or premises liability, dog bite, or a catastrophic injury, Mandel Trial Lawyers are there for you when the fight is worth it. Call now for your free consultation. 818-886-6600. Let the scales of justice tip in your favor.
When someone they're in a lawsuit, they've had the accident, they've had the injury, car crash, whatever it is, and now they're in this lawsuit, and now the lawsuit has progressed to the point where the other side's doctor gets to take a look at them. Why is it important to make sure they don't do certain kinds of testing? Because, we want to be fair. Right? But why are we saying we're drawing the line at certain kinds of testing like x-rays? Because x-ray, it's not technically invasive. I guess you're getting radiation, right? But why is that important?
The legislature apparently felt it was important. I think it's important because I don't know how objective it can be when they're doing that invasive test, but also
that's pretty objective. An x-ray is an x-ray.
I guess so. But on the other hand, we've had, already the client's already been has had X-rays and has submitted to radiation. Why should they submit to more when those films are available? That would be one point.
That is the point. I think, but something like a blood test,
right?
Or anything else where a needle might go in. Why is it important that we disallow that?
Why do you think?
Well, I was asking you.
Well, I don't. A blood test?
I have no idea. No, I'm
What
kidding.
do you think, Ava? What do you think, for instance, as Rob brought up, a blood test? Why are they precluded from doing that?
Because he's there as the expert to evaluate. He has all the records related to the injury, and your client shouldn't unduly be put through losing blood or suffering by some kind of invasive procedure when all the data is already there.
Now, here's another point,
It's
Rob.
an ethical point. If
Yeah.
they're not
It
going to
really is.
treat,
Talk
then they
about-
shouldn't be
But here's the
evading.
point, Rob.
Okay,
Wait,
go
let me just
ahead.
say this.
Because I think
He
I
is
have
not-
the answer.
But he is not the doctor for our client. He has no obligation to treat that person or give a diagnosis.
Beyond that, he has no legal duty to this person whatsoever. No fiduciary duty. Can't be sued if he does something wrong.
Right. So if
Or
it's a
tells
bad
him to
blood
do
test,
something wrong. Can't get, you have no doctor-patient relationship with them.
Exactly.
So to allow invasive procedures under that kind of setting would be highly unethical and unfair. Somebody is already going through trauma. Why do you want, and it's already traumatic to have them see some doctor that they know is an adversary and not a friend, and now you're going to make them do something painful and invasive? No.
But I've also had clients report to me, when the doctor moved my knee, he did it in a very aggressive way. You're there watching that, right?
Right.
That's just uncalled for. Have you seen that happen?
Maybe not a knee, but people that are extremely sensitive with the back, They may have other issues, and even asking them to lay on the table on their back is very painful. In my experience, I see the opposite. I see these doctors being very light-handed, and I think that's twofold. Number one, they don't have the doctor-patient relationship, and they don't want to hurt somebody in the role that they are working for the insurance company. And secondly, a light-handed exam doesn't evoke responses.
I see.
So they'll get a false
Negative.
negative.
So when you say lightheaded, when they palpate or they touch the person, they don't touch them very hard,
Right. It's
so they
like
don't
they're
elicit
lightly
any
going,
pain.
does this bother you? And they're just like they're playing the piano really lightly. And I've actually had clients say, very innocently out loud for the audio, for everyone, well, you're barely touching me, doctor. I guess if you did it. And
Good for them, though.
so, they're just very innocently answering. So again, we're there. The doctor has every opportunity to do a sincere exam, and I feel there are those who do, and those who don't. It's going to be noted, recorded, maybe even commented on by the client.
Yeah. She's an essential part of our cases.
She's an essential part of our cases, I would agree.
Thank you, Robert.
Yeah.
Stay connected with us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and of course, brothersonlaw.com.
Hey, if you missed any part of this show or you just want to hear it again, go to brothersonlaw.com for all of our previous shows and all things Brothers on Law. We were talking about things that stood out in your mind. Can you give us anything where you just, it was just a crazy ride in one of these exams for you?
Well, I don't know that people would learn from it. I remember one of my very first cases, an elderly doctor, and the lady, she was a very intelligent lady, the one who was the injured plaintiff. And he didn't have a good bedside manner with her, and she didn't have a lot of tolerance with him either. She was doing some eye rolling, and he asked her to stand up on her toes, and she went up on her toes and hovered really high. She had been an professional ballerina with the Joffrey Ballet, and
Wow.
He started yelling, down, down, and yelling at her to go back down.
Why?
And then he got he had like a tantrum, and he called his office manager on the phone, and he stormed out of the room, and then he came back and he said, "You come with me."
To you?
To me. And
Yeah.
I said, okay. So I grabbed my audio recorder in my hand and walked down the hall, and the office manager met us, and he was just so upset. He couldn't really put it in words because she wasn't doing anything other than she didn't feel a lot of respect from the way the bedside manner was. And the office manager was patting him on the back saying, "Oh, doctor, would you like to cancel the exam? We could do this another time if it's too much." And he said, no, let's go back in there. You've been very professional, but if she just, and he couldn't even put it in words. And
So he thought she was mocking him by going up on her toes the way she knew how to do.
Yeah. So anyhow,
That's
it
a
happened.
bad read on his part.
You think he would have been happy because obviously if she's up on her toes, then she could, had a lot of function
Strength,
left.
yeah.
All right, so we're going to now play a quick little game. We're going to switch gears here, and it's a true or false, and we do this usually each week. Here's a law that may or may not be true, and we're going to ask Eva to weigh in on this too. What do you think? In South Carolina, it's unlawful for a tattoo artist to tattoo any part of the head, face, or neck of another person.
Well, I think in South Carolina, I don't like seeing tattoos on the head, neck, or face of anybody personally. It just kind of looks a little weird to me.
Yeah, Michael Tyson likes it, though, I guess.
Yeah. But maybe in South Carolina, they can. I can't imagine that they could enforce a law like that. But I'm going to say it's true.
What do you think, Eva?
I'm going to say it's true as well.
I'm going to go false.
And
It's true.
Producer Cam says it's true. Well, I guess those tattoo artists in South Carolina just better stay below the neck.
Yeah.
But,
South Carolina is playing parent to these people. They will thank the state later when they grow up.
that's true. But, I can't imagine how you enforce that.
Yeah, because you said, well, I went to North Carolina, had it done, and now I'm back here.
Well, I mean, I think it's unconstitutional.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into a deep discussion about that, but I would think the First Amendment precludes a law like that. Hey, if you missed any part of this show or you just want to hear it again, go to brothersonlaw.com for all of our previous shows and all things Brothers on Law.
So we have a new segment we want to introduce. Each week, Rob and I will alternate and discuss a case that we want to share, whether good or bad. I'm going to be gracious, at least this day, as the older brother, and let my younger brother take the first swing. So here it is. It's called the Rob Report.
All right, and with apologies to the actual Rob Report, but it's funny. The Rob Report is what my wife calls me. That's her nickname for me. So, all right. So here's my first Rob Report, and that is that some years ago I had a case where someone had disabled a big giant gate where this gentleman worked. It was like the common area for this big industrial park, and he goes to close the gate, and the thing just falls over, and he manages to back out of the way of this gate so it doesn't hit any part of him except his instep on the top of his foot. It was about a 400-pound gate, and it lands on his instep, kind of bruises it, and it's very painful at the time, but didn't break anything. So he thinks, this is not going to be a big deal. Gets a little bit of treatment, goes to the doctor a few times, but then it just keeps getting worse and worse, the pain. And the bruise that he originally had never goes away. And months go by. And the doctors kind of missed the boat a little bit. They may have been able to stop the thing by shooting in some steroids. But regardless, the thing turns into what's called reflex sympathetic dystrophy, or some people call it complex regional pain syndrome.
CRPS.
Yeah, but this was the real deal. There's a lot of controversy over that particular diagnosis, but it was just a weird reaction that his body had to this trauma.
And you got him a recovery.
Well, yeah, I did get him a big recovery. It was millions over this spot on his instep because it became so painful. And it's such a terrible thing.
Just that part of the fence hit it, his instep.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, but for him, it became a lifetime terrible event.
Yeah.
And so
that's what we do.
Yeah.
That's how we protect people.
But
it's good.
It was just a strange thing because the body reacts to these things. Everyone's a little different.
That's right.
And his body just had this terrible autoimmune response. I think that's what it is.
All right.
So I think we're running out of time there, Larry.
Oh, all right.
So I think it's about time to wrap it up because we've had so much fun with Eva.
Yeah.
So we're going to say our goodbyes till next Saturday, and we want to thank you, Eva, for coming in and sharing your Saturday morning with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, you are so welcome. It was a pleasure and very informative.
Yeah, and if we want to contact Eva, how would we contact you? Other attorneys or other people who want to use your services?
Yeah, sure. My company is called Med Legal Source, and that's the name of the website, medlegalsource.com.
medlegalsource.com.
Okay.
All right.
Go on the internet.
Yeah, and you'll find Eva. So listen.
If you've missed any part of this show or you'd like to hear our previous shows on YouTube, or go to YouTube, brothersonlaw.com, or you can listen to us on iTunes and Podbean. We want to thank you for listening, and if you have a legal question or a show topic, we'd love to hear from you. Message us on Instagram or Facebook at Brothers on Law. If you have a legal matter that you need representation for, call us for a free consultation at 1-800-310-7113. What is that number, Rob?
800-310-7113, and tell us that you heard us on Go Country 105. And we look forward to being here next week on Saturday at 8 a.m. on Go Country 105. And remember,
let the scales of justice tip in your favor.
The opinions expressed in the Brothers-in-Law show are for informational purposes only and are not a substitute for personal professional legal advice.